All right, let's get our Facebook friends in here to start the show. And we got the spinning wheels going. We're still going 1 and a 2. All right, welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday evening, the last day of April, and it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos, the Built Broncos. I guess on this show, the first Tuesday after the draft. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Carl Dumler. Carl, how you doing now that the dust has settled? It's kind of good that we have a chance to sit here and talk about a really unique topic here. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty isolated, especially with a newborn, right? I don't have much time to other than work, eat, sleep. But setting Bo Nix expectations year one, we're on the cutting edge here. I haven't heard too much yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime you get a new quarterback in the first round, it is one of those great things that brings that four-letter word that everybody loves, hope.
Mm-hmm.
You just hope that maybe this could be that one that works out and turns your franchise around. And Broncos fans have been wanting this for a long time. Obviously we tried to talk ourselves into Paxton Lynch for a while, Drew Lock for a while. He wasn't a first rounder, but now committing a top 12 pick, like this is your guy for the next couple years, unless something really falls off the rails and you have like the number one pick and you're going, okay, yeah, this guy is not it. But for the most part, like I said, this is your guy. And Sean Payton, I mean, he sounds like a person that just got into a brand new relationship and can't wait to tell everybody about their new girlfriend and how great they are and all those kind of things. So you got the butterflies. I love listening to him talk about him because it does get you excited about him. Now, how much should that change my thoughts on how I felt about him going into it? And I was pretty high on him compared to a lot of other people. But still, like I said, it's that cautious optimism beginning to boil up and get ready for this upcoming season.
Yeah, Sean Payton got his guy. He's obviously really excited about it. I don't think he had to put out there that he felt the same way about Bo Nix as the feelings he had with Patrick Mahomes. Kind of unfair to Bo Nix out of here. Also,
Yeah.
doesn't really correlate because I guess Nix was his third quarterback. So, like, how high was he on Daniels and Caleb Williams to say that, he felt the same about Mahomes? Granted, we didn't know about Mahomes being Mahomes back then, but Denver's got a new quarterback, and we're going to set some year one expectations with Bo Nix here today. But first, let's say hello to people coming in here, and we have to start with our super chats, of course, because you guys keep the lights on for us at Mile High Huddle for Building the Broncos. So we really do appreciate all of these coming in and the support from you guys. You don't have to drop a super chat, to get read or obviously to contribute, but certainly helps Carl and I and all of us here at Mile High Huddle. So we appreciate that. Like David McElrath's comment coming in here, $5 saying, good evening, Nick and Carl and Deacon Scott. Hashtag Bo knows. Hashtag Buckham 3 times. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. I'm completely behind Sean Payton. Zach, I was a Payton fan. So no Zach here, but yeah, Sean Payton. Okay, I got confused there because it was Payton spelled like Peyton Manning, but we got Sean Payton. We also got Payton, the general manager.
Payton.
It's a whole lot of Paytons. But thank you so much, David, for the super chat coming in here. Hope you're doing well. Always good to hear from you. We got Kenneth Booker coming in here too. Says, is there a player that you were banging the table for the Broncos to draft in the later rounds and the Broncos passed on? I gotta be honest with you. Day 3 of the draft, first time I've done this in a decade, but I was purely on baby duty all day after doing a lot of coverage and work the same days, Thursday and Friday. Saturday, I checked the phone, I messaged the guys in the chat, but definitely a fair deal. Nick was on baby duty. So later rounds that they passed, I guess you might be able to talk. Leonard Floyd is a name that stands out to me. The Leonard Taylor, the defensive tackle, had some good tape, went undrafted. Mike Nugent, the center, kind of stands out too, but I can't think of anybody as it was happening live that I was banging the table for. So I'll kick it over to you, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, round 4, Javon Baker at wide receiver. I had him ranked a little bit ahead of Troy Franklin. I mean, I'm not upset about the Troy Franklin pick all that much, but still, that was another wide receiver that I had really high. Jalen Wright at running back was another guy that it was really sad to see him go off the board when he did there in the 4th round. I thought he would be a really nice fit in the Sean Payton offense. I'm trying to think. jumping to fifth round. Austin Booker, just because I'm a KU fan. I would have loved to have seen him in Denver. I know we'd already taken edge, but he was another one that I really liked heading into this draft process. I thought he would have been a decent pick for the Broncos at that point to keep adding to that group. But then again, we also knew about that time that the Broncos were bringing in John
Franklin Myers.
John Franklin Myers. I was Michael Myers in my head, and I'm like, that's not right.
John
he's not
Jacob
wearing a mask and
Franklin
stabbing
Myers.
people. So, but yeah, no, John Franklin Myers. So that kind of eased that one for me. Really, because I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast many times, talked about it on draft day too, that really after the fourth round, there just was this huge drop off where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Like, it's a player, when we got to the seventh round picks, both of them, neither of them got me excited by any means, but there wasn't anybody still out there that I was like, yes, please Broncos, take this player. So yeah, like I said, the fourth round is where I had a couple more players. I still had maybe a little bit earlier. I would have like early third round. I would have been really happy. And they were still there in the fourth.
Yeah, and Scott in the background here says Theo Johnson, tight end from Penn State, and Tanner Bordellini, center from Wisconsin, were two of our guys in the fourth. Also, there was Malik Mustafa, safety from Wake Forest. So, yeah, there were some guys still available, but I like Denver's move to trade up in the fourth, and I also like both fifth-round picks a lot, too. So, I mean, if I had to say my favorite pick of the whole draft, besides, the excitement and the potential of taking a rookie cost-control quarterback that your coach loves, is Audric Estime. I mean, the second youngest running back in the class, absolutely built. I mean, he has 7% body fat or something. Ran a 4.71, but I mean, if you break tackles and you have good vision and patience, and that's okay. You don't have to have home run speed to be a good running back in that realm. So questions about, the pass catching ability given that system there, but in theory, he should be pretty damn good as a pass protector and should be somebody they can give the ball to and grind teams down.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I wonder if he was a hurdler in high school because of how many guys he hurdles. I mean, he has that hurdle step, the way he jumps over people. Just a random thought that I was having when I was watching him. But we got KB82 with the 499 saying it was a cool story Nix's family took in a fellow teammate going through some rough times. Yeah, it was really cool. Then got to play this last year together in Oregon, and he should be a decently high pick next year. I would say probably day 2 pick, possibly at wide receiver. Very athletic, great kid. And then the Nix family. The more you read about all of them, not just Bo Nix, but the entire family, the more you want to cheer for this guy. The more you see the good in him and trying to help teammates out. I made the comment draft day that, there's that movie Draft Day. Where Bo doesn't have any teammates that no teammates come to his birthday party. And I said, Bo Nix would have a lot of teammates at his birthday party because he is well loved. And yeah, so I do love that about the kid. He's going to be a great teammate. Now we just got to see if he has the tools to actually be a great quarterback.
Yeah, time will show. And, shout out to the Nix's family. If, being in a position of privilege and benefit of life and sharing that love. So not everybody does that. So really good to see that. And hopefully Bo Nix and his family, integrated well into Denver, the Broncos do a really good job of the player community relationship. So hopefully Nix can step into that role. We got David Cremello coming in saying, do you guys agree with Robbie NFL that it was good process to stay at 12 and take Nix? Nick is more likely Denver picks 5 top 10 or 6 to 10 in 2025. Bo Nix is not a complete unknown, but as far as an NFL quarterback right now, he could end up being good next year. He could not be good. I mean, it's really hard to evaluate that, especially with the Oregon offense, how little he was under pressure, how defenses are going to play him, blah, blah, blah. So I think probably if I had to bet right now, I mean, what does Vegas have him at? 5.5 wins, maybe going from Stidham to Bo Nix adds another win according to Vegas. We'll do our schedule breakdown when the time comes to it. But they're probably most likely picking in that 8 to 14 range, I think, next season. But we'll see. Because they're a rookie quarterback team, that's a high variance team. That's the most important position, and we don't know. So we'll see. And as far as Broncos staying at 12, good process. If they identified him as Sean Payton's quarterback, and you didn't have to trade up, give up a lot besides 12, which is still a premium investment, but it's not like, trading up and giving up 3 future first round picks, then you brought in Sean Payton to build this team in his image and what he wants to do. And if he's standing on the table saying, this is my guy, and you didn't have to give up a lot to get him, I think that is good process from an organization. Now, we will see if the evaluation itself was a good process, but I think the selection, in hindsight, but I think the selection and everything to it was a good process overall, even if, I on the record, 12 overall seemed rich from my evaluation of Knicks. But again, if I have the head coach, I gave all that money, power, gave away draft picks come in, and he's saying, that's my guy, you don't have a choice really, but to go get him. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, especially like after those first 5 went the way that they did. And then you saw the huge drop off from Bo Nix to that next quarterback. I think, did it break the record for longest period between picks of quarterbacks?
It would have to. I mean, it was
so
the 5th round. I mean,
I think it was like 118 was the record, and 125 ended up being what it was in this draft, or something like that. Anyway, so it shows the drop off after those top 6. And if any team was going, okay, we really need a quarterback, and Bo Nix is the only one left, yeah, I'm sure that there were some teams making some phone calls possibly. And Nix is, like I said, he's kind of a interesting evaluation. There's going to be some that really love him and think, hey, he's going to be a really good fit in this system. But he's really a system quarterback. Like, you have to have him in the right place, right time, right players around him to make that work. Like Caleb Williams, he's one of those guys, you could probably stick him in a few different kinds of systems and he could work. Drake May, because they have that just natural tools, talent, that they can do some different things and attack different ways. Bo Nix isn't that kind of guy. And we've talked about it, where I thought he was a good 137 picks in between. Jeremy's letting us know. So yeah, like I said, if he is your guy, and I'm sure many people have read all the articles and Sean Payton talking about him and stuff like that, of just like, hey, we knew after his pro day and after our private workout, like we said, that's our guy. We got to go get him. You don't take that chance for maybe a couple more 5th round picks to trade back a couple spots. You look a lot of those first round trades, they weren't getting a whole lot really when we're talking about trade value going back. So,
I mean, did you see what the Patriots were offered from the Vikings?
Yeah.
To go up. I mean, that's the fact that, I mean, there were big trades on the table. They just, they chose May over the trade package.
Right. But that was top 3. So, yeah, I mean, once we get further back, obviously the trades go further down. And so I don't blame them for one bit deciding, hey, we got to take him at 12. We don't think he's going to be there at 18, 19 if we trade back that far, kind of thing. So, Michael Ronquillo coming in.
I was very, Drake May was the quarterback that I really liked in this cycle, because I never thought Caleb Williams was possible. But let's just extrapolate what the Vikings offered, which I believe was 11, 23, a 3rd rounder this year, a 2025 first. That would be Denver's, 1 and 3 this year, 2025 first, 2026 first, maybe a little bit more because there's a premium on those future picks, right? Or the premium on the more current picks. I'd rather stay there at Bo Nix. I love Drake May, but with where Denver's at from a team building perspective, I'm probably happier with Bo Nix at 12 than trading everything from Drake May. Now, if Drake May hit, if I could know which one was going to be the quarterback, right? That doesn't even matter which, like, you'd give up everything to have Allen, Mahomes, whatever, to guarantee that player. But they're prospects. Right. They're not guarantees. But what is a guarantee? Always come in on the support. Michael Ronquillo says, good evening, Nick Carl, on building the Broncos. Go Broncos. Go Michael. Always appreciate you coming in. Always a lot of good conversation here. We also got Phil coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. Got to say, I've become a pessimist over the last 7 years, so I have to see the results before I'm convinced Knicks was the right pick. I would have traded back myself. I don't think the Raiders would have taken him. Yeah, I haven't heard anything from the Raiders themselves. Now, would they put it out there? I don't know, but a lot of people, it seems from what I've seen, speculative that, like, if you didn't take Knicks at 12, no doubt the Raiders would have taken him at 13. The Saints would have taken him at 14. The Rams would have taken him. The Cowboys would have taken him. The Seahawks would have taken him. The Steelers. I mean, I don't know. we'll find out, I guess, maybe as time passes on. But again, I would have been okay living in the uncertainty in the world that if I traded back and got, another second round pick and a future day 2 pick to move back 6-10 spots and Nix was gone. Okay. But if I was the general manager and my head coach, who, let's be real, who's wearing the pants in that room, besides the Walton Penner group, but like it's Sean Payton's team. You can't do that. He's the guy. And that pick, if it works out or not, it's on Sean Payton. So I just think you can't do that. I would have been okay living with that. Denver wasn't. I like the conviction there in the very least. So we'll see. And I'm with Phil as well, but I don't think that makes you a pessimist. I just think that makes you more of a scientist, right? We're in the observation stage now. You had your hypothesis. We got it on the field now. We're going to get 12, 20 starts of Nix before we can really have an idea of who he is probability-wise as a NFL quarterback long-term. I'm eager to see it, and I really hope Sean Payton is right, because the bar is so high for quarterback in the AFC. It's so high.
It is. And really, I mean, the statistics bear it out that more likely than not, Bo Nix is not going to work out. More likely than not, maybe only 2 of the quarterbacks from this first round draft work out. It's just the way that the position kind of works, because it matters not only the talent, but it matters the situation they go to. I think Bo Nix fell into the perfect situation, so we can't really use that as an excuse of why he fails. Going to Sean Payton, Broncos have at least a few weapons. I mean, it's not the greatest weaponry you've ever seen, but it's not the worst I've ever seen a rookie quarterback going to. Good offensive line, should have a strong running game, especially after Estime getting drafted. So yeah, he's in a good situation. McCarthy's in a good situation. Honestly, I'd be a little bit nervous being Drake May with Patriots. I'm afraid they're going to ruin him possibly there. I mean, they did draft a couple wide receivers. We'll have to see how that works out. Jaden Daniels with Washington. That's going to be an interesting one, especially defensive coach. Let's say your offense is successful. We're seeing this with Josh Allen, where his offensive coordinator has to keep changing because he has a defensive-minded head coach. And we've seen times where it's a high variance of one coach, it works. The next coach, there's a lot more failure. So like I said, I'm kind of interested to see how all their situations play out with it. And so Phil, I'm with you. I'm trying not to get too high because I don't want to be let down, because we've had plenty of that over the last, like I said, 7-9 years kind of thing. But there's at least a little bit of hope that maybe they've got this quarterback position figured out. And we can talk about something other than quarterback when we're talking about the draft for the first time in a lot of years. That would be great going into next year.
The defensive line is going to be pretty fun in 2025, edge and interior. Can't wait. It'll be a lot of fun. And I will put this out there. I put it out on Twitter. I've said it on here before, but there really is no wrong way, in my opinion, to feel about the Nix selection for the Broncos. If you want to be, Nix is going to be the next John Elway and Denver's going to win 10 Super Bowls in a row, that's how you feel right now. And that's valid, especially in this phase. If you're super excited, you're going there and buying all 4 iterations of the Bo Nix jersey the Broncos have out there now, hallelujah. God bless you. If you think it was a terrible pick, yeah, okay, you can feel that way, but the only wrong way is to tell people how they should feel about it, and then also be an a-hole about it. So I am very, sit back. I made my assessment. Now we are wait and see and hope for the best. And
yeah,
that's just how I'm going to try to play it.
Right.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of reasons both ways to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
You can point to, like I said, the Oregon offense. You can point to some of the lack of arm talent on some things. You can point to a lot of things on the negative, and then on the positive. I mean, even Sean Payton really pointed towards the analytics side of things to say, like, he's first in almost all these categories when it comes to this draft class. And I think they really did lean into a lot of analytics, like the Troy Franklin pick.
Yeah.
If you're looking at just the analytical side of things when it comes to his career in college, he's a top 3 wide receiver in this draft class. Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. have an argument, but otherwise, I mean, if you're talking like one of the big, usually stats that a lot of teams look at is yards per route run for a career in college, I think he's number 2 behind Neighbors in that category.
Yeah.
But then you can also look at the other side and go, okay, most receivers that weigh 176 pounds coming out of college don't do well. There's like one, Devontae Smith. The rest of them have all failed miserably when it comes to that kind of thing. So, like I said, there's a lot of good reasons to like what the Broncos did in this draft. There's a lot of reasons to be worried moving forward too.
Yeah, and a lot of people excited. Marty says, I'm excited for the fresh start of a new quarterback. Absolutely. We got Todd says, hello, everybody. Good to see you. Woofy's in the house. Mike S says, what's up, everybody? We got Andy Schrant coming in. Always love the snake picture there, Andy. I don't know if is that the poisonous one. Is it red, black, yellow, or red, yellow, black? Whatever the order is to be weary of. I don't know.
I stay away from them all.
Stay away from them all. Snakes are cool. Zach Powers comes in and says, afternoon, sickos. Afternoon to you, Zach. Hope you're doing well. Got our guy Jeremy says, good evening, everyone. And yeah, happy belated birthday to Carl. Carl's birthday was yesterday, so I don't want you to put your age out there for anybody out there because, it starts to – I'm at the point now where it's like, uh-oh. But we got he says also, Nick, take it easy. I just saw Scott in the background. Scott, you are young at heart and could beat all of us.
He's giving us a nice wave.
In a race. Yeah, that's not a nice finger. Paula coming in here says, hello, Carl, Nick, and Scott. Always good to see everybody coming in with the happy birthdays, of course. Daniel Berry Sports says evening. String Guys in the house. Brooklyn Official Music says, go Broncos, go Bo. I expect big things from him. And Corey Johnson comes in and says, Bo Nix plus Sean Payton is better than Caleb Williams. I mean, by even Sean Payton's accounts, he would have, if Broncos had the first overall pick, don't think Bo Nix would be the quarterback of the Broncos right now. It'd probably be Caleb Williams, but we'll see. Definitely. You're talking about situations. If I had to rank the situations where the quarterbacks went to as far as talent and supporting cast, unfortunately, the Broncos are probably fourth in that list. And the offensive line is solid, but last year they had a lot of health injury luck on the offensive line. Weapons are very questionable to me, but I would probably rank them Minnesota 1, the Bears 2. I mean, they got really good weapons, Carl. Yeah. Atlanta 3. I mean, it's a weird situation with Kirk Cousins, but I mean, they got weapon after weapon after weapon and a top 10 offensive line too. Then Denver, and then probably, where are the other quarterbacks? Probably then the Commanders and then the Patriots as far as supporting cast talent around them. But got Sean Payton. That has to count for something. I don't know if he's the best offensive mind out of those guys. I mean, historically he is. Kevin O'Connell's pretty freaking good. I think he's probably one of the top 3 innovators right now. But we'll see. We'll see. All we can say for sure is Sean Payton loves him and he got his guy. Let's get to work. Phil McLaughlin says, guys, I really love the kid, Matatocha, but it's going to be impossible for him to make the Broncos, but his exposure might get him a chance in another team. What offense did the Mines mostly run? Phil, I'm going to be honest with you. God bless you for the comments here. Newborn tape that I don't have access to. When it's like UDFA guys or small school guys, I kind of wait for training camp, OTAs, preseason, and go from there. So I couldn't tell you. I have not gotten to the undrafted free agents to that level because I'm still trying to catch up on what's happened on the league as a whole. So I wish I had more for you, Phil, on that.
So I actually had somebody asking me about him earlier today because they got a rookie minicamp invite. And I mean, there's some okay things there. He's small, got a pretty big windup for an arm that I'm not exactly excited about. But there's a little bit of promise there. Maybe giving Ben DiNucci a little run for his money. Right now, I'm kind of viewing it as they needed another arm for rookie minicamp. Sometimes you like to have 2 arms thrown to all those players instead of just one. And if he makes it to training camp, then I'll take him a lot more serious. Right now, he's just got to get through. I think rookie minicamp is either this Friday or the next Friday. They have 2 windows that they can do it. I'm not sure which one they're picking. So, like I said, there's some promise there. Like I probably would say there's maybe a little more promise there from him than Ben DiNucci. But we're talking end of roster kind of guys here. And I don't know how many quarterbacks the Broncos are even going to keep on the roster this season.
Based on what you said with him, hopefully UFL, XFL, we'll see what happens. We got Richard Miles says, I'm hoping Bo Nix sits for a year first and learns, but ... Yeah, I am very much not of the opinion that Bo Nix should sit. Now, I do want an honest to God, competition where if it's close at all, you probably have to go with the premium selected player because let's be real, Denver's not going to be very good in 2024. I believe that's more because the defensive talent than the offensive talent that they currently have. But you have the third oldest quarterback drafted in the history of the NFL. You have the quarterback with, was it 61 starts, 62 starts, most 61 in college football history. Somebody who is mechanically very clean and has been talked about the pre-snap checks, the offensive install stuff, just, a true professional and a smart kid. I don't see, unless he comes out and is terrible or, we have a Brock Purdy, Trey Lance situation where Zach Wilson is unbelievable. Not likely, but you never know. We have to let it play out. I just can't see a situation, barring injury, where Bo Nix doesn't win the starting spot.
Would you be more worried if he doesn't start year one? Then, I would too.
Yeah.
I've seen people say, well, Patrick Mahomes took a year. Aaron Rodgers had a couple years. Love had a couple years up there and Green Bay as well.
Not to cut you off. Who was ahead of those guys?
Right. That's the thing, is they had very established veterans that were winning playoff. Yeah, some of them were, well, not Alex Smith, but he's still getting them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They were a playoff team the year that they took Patrick Mahomes. So you're trying to maximize that and not, you don't have to throw the rookie out there. Broncos don't have that. Stidham has 7 starts to his career?
Something like that. 4.
Okay. Zach Wilson, he has a few more starts, but has been terrible. So right now, it doesn't hurt you completely to go throw that number 12 overall pick. Like I said, it's older. He's more mature. He's a lot of people consider him pretty NFL ready in a lot of ways. So I'd be very nervous if he doesn't win the starting job. Honestly, part of me is kind of going, it's not that I want the Broncos just to hand him the job, but I would rather them hand it to him earlier than later in training camp. Not do this, hey, let's get through the second preseason game and then we'll make our decision. I don't want that. I don't want the splitting of the throws in practice because you've already got limited throws anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Troy coming in here with a $9.99 super chat saying, wonder whether Breeze has a warmer reception for Nix than he did for Russell Wilson. Have a great show. Troy, thank you very much. I think he probably will. There's a lot of people that are not big Russell Wilson fans around the league. Player-wise, coach-wise, he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with his personality. He's got a weird personality. So you either really love him or you find him annoying. Bo Nix isn't that way. He's going to be a guy that's going to be, like I said, well-loved in the locker room. Teammates love him. Coaches love him. I've not heard a single person ever say a bad thing about this kid. So I think Breeze, and I would probably bet Sean Payton even contacts Breeze and says, hey, I'd really love you to help this kid. Peyton Manning's worked with this kid before. So I know that Peyton Manning loves coming in and helping kids if they can. I'm sure both those guys will be talking to him, say, hey, this is what we encourage you to be doing, especially during this time. You've got a few months before training camp kicks off. This is how you should get into your playbook. This is what you should be doing with your receivers, all those kind of things. So I do expect a much warmer welcome.
I think that the Drew Brees non-warm welcome probably had somewhat to do with the relationship with Sean Payton. And if Sean Payton says, love Nix, and obviously it seems like a pretty good relationship between Payton and Brees, of course, can't imagine there being a cold reception by any means. I think, Bo Nix comes off as a very hard worker, intelligent guy, and asking the right questions. So obviously, rookie quarterback coming in has gone through on the field adversity. And again, just by all accounts, a professional already. So I imagine he'll have a warm reception. I'm thinking Peyton Manning also, it sounds like warm reception, eager about Bo Nix in Denver. We'll see that, Peyton was excited about Drew Lock too, right? They're just talking about some of what he can do. So we won't know until we know, right? So hopefully, but yeah, definitely a warm reception. And Denver, in the very least, I think, stupidly in a positive way. It's crazy how much they raised the floor of the room bringing in Bo Nix, just from
Yeah.
a this season perspective and multiple season perspective. Not stupidly as in bad pick or whatever. Patrick Wiltsey coming in here saying, aloha boys. Payton knows Bo. Yeah, hopefully he knows Bo, and hopefully Bo knows Payton. I think it maybe is more important that Bo knows Payton at this point. We got the Maraca 99 coming in, says Nix was low risk. There's a possibility of high reward. If he ends up not being the guy, it won't cost us too much to move on. Yeah, I mean, there is an opportunity cost giving up the 12th overall pick, but I mean, Denver, I guess it's not a great example because we haven't had 2 picks for 2 back-to-back years now before this, and would have been nice to have, some building block pieces there, but there would have been nice to have Latu there or Byron Murphy. We'll see. But again, they did not give up a lot. They did not have to trade up and go get that. And allegedly, Bo Nix was their 3rd guy. So yes, it is easy. It's not a huge cost in reality. And it also is easy to move on if it doesn't work out. So we'll see. But that's a very well point by the Maraca coming in here. And another point I wanted to ask here, Carl, do you think that you talked about the gulf in the quarterbacks being selected this year between Penix, McCarthy, Nix, all the way down to Rattler in the 5th? Do you believe that is as much the evaluation of those guys, or is it the middle class, middle tier quarterbacks that 10 years ago, in the draft where you had Colin Kaepernick, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr, those early day 2 guys, that era's gone. With what the CBA has done, with the benefit of the rookie quarterback contract on that, I honestly believe those guys that a decade ago would have gone day 2, not anymore. Jumped up. You're getting those guys middle of the 1st round. You're getting those guys who used to go, middle of the 1st round, bottom of the top 10, going 1, 2, 3 in the draft. So I almost think that there's almost a loss of the middle class here because of the CBA, the quarterback desperation. And if you even have a chance to be a quality starter, you're going to be snagged. Is that a crazy theory? I mean,
no, it's not at all. I mean, you're always looking at the cost benefit. I mean,
yeah.
NFL teams do this a lot of what's going to be worth it to pay to certain positions. I mean, it's why you're seeing wide receivers getting $30 million a year, offensive tackles getting $25 million. It's why the safety group, people are going, we're not going to pay them anymore. Like they're not as, it's not that they're not important. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying positional wise, where are you going to invest your money? And when you got quarterbacks now making 55 million, wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of years if they're up to 60 million a year. Mm-hmm. And you've got this rookie quarterback making 5-6 million a year. That is a huge advantage, even if they only play at an average level. Let's say they're the 16th quarterback ranked in the NFL. That is a huge advantage. Like you can surround that guy with an incredible team. And we've seen some teams that have been able to do that. The Ravens were able to do that with Joe Flacco. They gave him a great team around him before he got paid and won a Super Bowl. Now, Joe Flacco played great in the playoffs. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but he was an average quarterback most of that time. You're looking at Brock Purdy right now. If he's making $55-60 million a year, can they give him the team that he has right now and he's still playing at this kind of level? Part of it's the Shanahan system. Like he can make any quarterback look incredible, it seems like. But still, like I said, it's amazing when you've got Trey Lance, yeah. But that roster, I mean, you look at that 49ers group and the wide receivers that he has, the offensive line, the defense. I mean, that is just such an incredible roster overall that it just makes things a lot easier. And we got Jason Schmidt. Is this my boy, Jason Schmidt, that I grew up with? I got to look at the picture here. It is. Oh, my gosh. Advice of how I defend my Broncos to my obnoxious Kansas City brother-in-law in 2024. I guess you could say Bo Nix's wife isn't as annoying. Maybe. I don't know. I guess you could say Andy Reid's going to retire soon. Travis Kelce's going to be out of the league soon. So their era is coming to an end. Not quite. They still have Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, Jason. I wish I had better news for you. I know living out here, because this is a guy I grew up with. I wish there was better news. I get it all the time. I've got Chiefs fans talking to me all the time about this. I've had Chiefs symbols drawn on my windows of my vehicle. People bring statues, put them out in the yard. I mean, it gets a little out of hand out here, and it is a sad day. It's almost forced me to move to Colorado just so I can get away from it.
I think you just start blasting Taylor Swift music or something like that, just like unreal. This is the world you live in now. So I don't know. I feel like this is me trying to give myself advice, but sometimes the best response is no response. In due time, it's all going to turn over, and Denver had a good run, and Kansas City's on a historic one right now. And, a lot of those fans, we hate them, but a lot of them have been diehards for a while. I guess you can also point at the ownership stuff, right? The Hunts kind of suck in comparison, and Kansas City voted out, not for the stadium stuff. And now it sounds like they might be like threatening to move even. We'll see what happens there, but we got wealthy owners. So, it's maybe post the meme with a guy crying with the dollar bills here, because money doesn't guarantee in the NFL that you're going to be great, but having good ownerships gives you a really good chance. And Denver's got an ownership group who sounds like they're going to invest heavily in the team. But it's going to be a decade before we know that. I will say, it takes a while to find out if you have good owners, but you can be pretty quickly to find out you have bad owners. I don't think we have bad owners. So Dennis Woods coming in here says, was Zach Wilson just a bad quarterback, or was he in a bad system and a bad supporting cast? How's it fit with Sean Payton? Second overall pick, must have talent. He's somebody who kind of loses his damn mind trying to get through his reads. He played in that really weird COVID shortened season against not good teams because BYU's was not in the conference then, so they didn't play a lot of talented players. I mean, I think Michigan went like 2-6 in the COVID season too, so that was a really weird year. But he has big arm talent. He's got a very loose arm. Question is, can you get him to see the field better and not freak out? I mean, I think it's a little bit bad system, bad supporting cast, but also it's the reality of quarterbacks, right? We can all grade the arm talent and the tangibles to an extent, the down the field accuracy and touch, but the NFL is a different game. I mean, literally, it's a different game. You don't have nearly the same spacing. The hash marks are much wider in college, which changes. Like, you couldn't run the air raid to Mike Leach's, preference in the NFL because of just how the spacing works. And talent discrepancies too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here, but I don't know if he was a bad quarterback, just maybe a bad situation. Definitely, though, weird circumstances, over-evaluated, missed a bust to that extent, but still young and still has arm talent. So a very worthwhile scratcher ticket for the Broncos.
And I would say he was one of those guys, he did probably need to sit for a year. Like, him being thrown to the wolves when he was 20, 21 years old when he was drafted. Like I said, coming from that weird BYU setup, I just think he needed that time to really learn the playbook, learn how to function in the NFL, and putting him in that New York market too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are certain markets that are just tougher to play in. New York, Boston, LA. There's just a lot more media attention, and especially when you're the number 2 overall pick, like, there is sky high expectations of what you're going to do for that franchise. And if you can't do it immediately, like, there's a lot of negativity coming your way, and a lot of guys are not ready for that. So it's a combination of a lot of things of why he failed. I don't think you can point to just one thing and say it was him or it's the organization. Just everybody failed overall in that entire situation. And I did like Scott's answer to what you can do to your Chiefs fans, say that we did beat him with Russell Wilson. So if you can't beat us with Russell Wilson, you're not a great team. Well, I mean, okay, you won a Super Bowl, but
what a bizarre year. Denver beats Kansas City, breaks that streak, and we beat Josh Allen as well. I mean, team game still in the end, especially small sample size. A lot of crazy stuff can happen. C-Dog comes in and says, does Estime have a chance to be running back 1 this season? Yeah, I think he does have a chance. He's young, second youngest back in the class. He's a powerful runner, good vision. And last year, nobody on the Broncos running back room took off. Now, I mean, my heart, and I think it obviously you have to give a shout out, and my heart goes out to Javonte Williams. It's a harsh league, right? Comes off that knee injury, busts his butt to get back out there. Doesn't look exactly the same last season. The yards after contact per attempt and the broken tackles just fell off a cliff. Not entirely his fault, but last year of his contract now, coming off a knee injury, it's a results-based business. They don't care your backstory or what you've gone through, unless you get through it and become elite. Then they love it. Then they love the story.
Yeah.
But if you kind of fall off, then the NFL machine just replaces you and spits you out. So I think Estime definitely has a chance to be running back one.
Right. And Javonte wasn't a Sean Payton pick.
No.
So he has no loyalty to that guy at this point. P. Ryan was one, but they're not paying him a whole lot. No more guarantees. So he'd be easy to replace too. So yeah, I definitely think Estime has a chance to go get it right as a rookie. Got Gary Palmer coming in with the $9.99 super saying, "Hi guys, just got here. I'll watch later. Thanks." Gary, thank you. Appreciate you tuning in here, and hope when you listen later, you enjoyed the show. But glad you were able to jump in here for just a second. So yeah, I agree. I think Estime, I think a couple of these rookies have some chances to really make a early impact. Ellis should get plenty of snaps early on. I'm not sure how much of an impact he's going to make day one, especially after bringing in Myers and how they're going to run all the rotation for all the defensive line combined together. But still, he'll get plenty of snaps being a third rounder. Roy Franklin, I'm sure that they'll have some packages for him, trying to move him around the field, just using that athleticism, that speed to win over the top. You've talked about it before, explosive plays. Roy Franklin was one of the best big play receivers in college football last year.
Yep. It was surprising to see him fall like he did. I mean, obviously not the best hands, rail thin. So there's some questions about the physicality, and going from the Pac-12 level of physicality to the NFL is going to be interesting to see. But again, I expect him to be wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and hopefully can get some explosives there. And somebody made a good point. I don't think it was on here, but with the CBA the way it is in the limited reps, getting somebody who has at least a little bit of chemistry already with Bo Nix can only help, right? I mean, how much is it going to matter? Matters more if you're a good player or not, but it can only help. We got Adam coming in here, says greetings from Broncos #1 fan in Australia. Good to see you. Says I have not been more excited for the season as I am right now with Bo Nix at quarterback. You must be young, Adam, because man, I remember frothing at the mouth when Denver brought in Peyton Manning. But that's a different conversation for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're excited, Adam, and the excitement is hopefully this is not the highest excitement ever is with Bo Nix. It's kind of somebody, I think it was Andrew Mason talking with him. He said, like, what's the highest Broncos country ever was with Russell Wilson? And it's like, probably the day they traded for him. And then after that, as soon as he got it on the field, it was like, maybe not. So hopefully this is, we're just starting here and we get up there. Why not live in that world right now? We'll see what happens.
I did want to say, I think the Broncos have 2 players from Australia on their team now. That tight end, is it Thomas Yasmin? Is that the one? I think he's from Australia. And then they brought in a punter. I can't remember that I think was from Australia. I know Yasmin is, but I'm not sure on the punter. Anyway, we've got Phil coming in saying, do you guys think they will move Sanders to the outside? I am hoping not. I think he plays much better inside. I would say after the Ellis pick, better chance that he stays inside. They're going to move him around just because he's that kind of player. Mm-hmm. They're not going to say, hey, this is your spot right here. You stay here every single play. They're going to use his ability to get after the quarterback, put him on the line sometimes, have him rush from off the ball. He's just going to be kind of that little bit of a joker player because he has that versatility to move around.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Broncos linebacker spot opposite of Alex Singleton, in my opinion, is wide open. And Drew Sanders, while he struggled there last season, especially early on in the Miami game, struggled with the run fits, struggled with the processing, the tackling. He He also struggled at edge when they moved him there as well. A little better the last couple of games, but man, that Detroit game was, I mean, if you did that on the street, it would be assault. What Penny Sewell did to Drew Sanders. So, I mean, Penny Sewell, different animal, but I mean, you don't
I got
expect
paid.
you don't expect that level of dominance though on the NFL field. It looked like
Right.
a freshman going up against a guy who's got like a full ride to Alabama. It was not good. So a lot of opportunities at that linebacker spot opposite of Singleton. Drew Sanders, Jonas Griffith, Cody Barton. They did not pay a lot for him to come in. Justin Stranad's back too, I think, right? So,
Yep.
it's the Joker breaking the pool cue kind of thing. Go get it. A lot of opportunity. We'll see. I do think there's more opportunity there for him inside than outside. He can be, a versatile coverage edge piece, kind of like a Kyle Van Noy in theory. But that's not the best pathway for him, especially with what the Denver's done with the rooms. Speaking of Australia, also, we got on Twitch, Raw Blitz. Maybe this is more. He says, "G'day, fellas. I saw NFL.com Bonix comparison to Tony Romo. Care to make the connection?" I think that, so what I think about this connection is that, I don't know if this was pre or post Broncos connection, because obviously Sean Payton, offensive coordinator with the Cowboys, but the solid athleticism, good frame, not an incredible arm, but good enough arm. And honestly, some of the fun plays, there's a little bit of magician there sometimes. The pump fakes, the ability, almost more arm talent shown sometimes out of pocket. So, and good enough, pretty good ball placement too. So that's the one. I mean, the one I come back to is somewhere between Andy Dalton and Alex Smith. We'll see if that falls into line. But yeah, Tony Romo is an interesting one for sure. Do you have any thoughts on this? I hadn't seen Tony Romo other than
yeah, I mean,
connection with Payton.
Yeah, Sean Payton had his time working with Tony Romo for a few years. So there's that connection there where he was a handpicked player by Sean Payton saying, "Hey, I think this kid could be something." And he didn't start for Sean Payton, if I remember right, but he helped build him up. And then when Sean Payton went off to the Saints, all of a sudden now he became the starter for the Cowboys, and the rest is history. And now talent-wise, yeah, I think there is some decent comparison there. Like you said, all those kind of things. Tony Romo, when he was in college, highly productive guy, just like Bo Nix. Talked about it with accuracy, got better as his college career went on, and good enough arm. I mean, Tony Romo never had the best arm by any means, but it was good enough for sure. And I remember Broncos playing the Cowboys, and there's one play where he ran around, made 5 guys miss, and then threw for a first down. And it was one of the most maddening plays as a Bronco fan that I've watched, was this Tony Romo throw. And Bo Nix has a little bit of that. I'm not sure he's quite that. He's a little bit more of a, hey, I'm going to take off running if I need to, more so than I'm going to dance around on some of this. He will do some dancing. More if you go back to his Auburn tape, he did a lot more of that. So I think it is a decent comparison. And if Tony Romo is what he becomes, that should be exciting for Broncos fans, because Tony Romo was a very good quarterback. He had some very unlucky breaks and some, I think of that field goal or extra point, whichever one it was, and he fumbled the snap and lost him the game when they should have won. Those kind of things. But yeah, Tony Romo would be a fun player to see on the field for the Broncos.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you remember my ceiling comparison for Bo Nix, which is always, fraught for a position like quarterback where it's so mental. But I thought if he can become Dak Prescott, that is probably somewhat the ceiling for him. And I mean, that's a lofty comparison because I'm a very big Dak Prescott fan. I think he's top 7 quarterback in the NFL and maybe the best quick game quarterback in the league right now. So Dak would be a heck of a get if you can get Bo Nix, Dak's level of play from Bo Nix. But we'll see. So bringing it back here, just the final 10 minutes here. My expectations for Bo Nix this season, he should be the starter out of the gate. Denver doesn't have a lot in the way. I guess it's possible you have a Purdy situation or something crazy where Zach Wilson comes in. It's like, oh, it clicked, because Zach does have a heck of an arm. The tools are there to do a lot of different stuff, but a large enough sample size at this point with Zach Wilson to say probably not going to reach stardom. So yeah, wouldn't think to go that way. As Freer Citizen talked about, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban talked about Nick's being one of the most ready quarterbacks in this draft class. I can't imagine a scenario outside of injury where he isn't the starter day one. I know that some people talk about it's best to sit them. Elway had 3 seasons. A lot of these Carl in the last, 15 years, which is a very large sample size in the NFL landscape. How many quarterbacks, 16 starts in or 20 starts in, you don't know who they are at that point. It's really Josh Allen or bust. And with how much Bo Nix has played already, you got to get him out there. You need to see what you have. So I'm not saying move on from him after year one if he's, mediocre. If you're like so bad that you're picking number 1 overall and you like Carson Beck, probably it's because Bo Nix wasn't very good. And then we can have that conversation, or Dak Prescott or something like that. Really unique scenarios there for that to happen. But I expect day 1 starter. I expect middle of the pack. And I expect there to be some growing pains, but more so in the decision making. I think he's good with the decision, but I think he throwing to windows and guys with the white hash marks in the Pac-12 going to be different than the NFL with teams squeezing down on you a little bit. Some of the throws that he had, was it only 3 interceptions last year? That's great. Some of them ones I'm like, that's probably a pick in the NFL. I hope he doesn't test that one in the NFL, but we'll see. We will see.
Yeah. I mean, he's smart enough to avoid a lot of bad decisions. I mean, I think he had the lowest interceptable passes of any or turnover worthy plays last year. And he doesn't fumble the football, which is great.
Yes.
That's going to be a nice adjustment from last year.
Huge hands.
Yeah. He's got very big hands. Yeah. And we got Lawrence Rivera coming in saying, "What up, guys? I honestly will say I'll get behind whatever quarterback is starter. But the biggest downfall for all the newest quarterbacks is they're really good in the first few games because defenses don't figure them out. And once they do, that's whenever they get chased out the league because they can't adapt." Yeah, I mean, that is definitely true. I was thinking about that with Jonah Ellis. It wouldn't surprise me if in the first couple games he gets a couple sacks with that spin move, catches a couple teams off guard, not ready for it. And then once teams adjust to that, he's got to figure out a second, third move to try to get offensive linemen off balance and be able to go make some plays. It's going to be the same thing with Bo Nix. Teams are probably going to creep up more and more and dare him to beat them over the top consistently. And I mean, that's going to be something he's got to prove. Last year on deep throws, he did fine. He just didn't throw a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
And so part of that is teams weren't expecting when they did do it, that all of a sudden the guys were wide open running down the field. That won't be happening quite as much in the NFL. There's still going to be a couple times, but for the most part, he's going to have to fit it into a few more tight windows. And like I said, there's going to be some things he's going to have to do to prove and push some teams back. I do expect the Broncos to lean very heavily into the run game to protect him. That's part of why you go get bell cow back like Estime. You still got Javonte, Pirine. We'll see if he's going to still be here. You're going to try to bruise those teams up and push the ball down that field, give Bo Nix opportunistic opportunities where it's not 3rd and 10 and he's having to sit there in the pocket, where it's 3rd and 3 and he can get the ball out quickly and make those quick decisions. So, that's the path to success for this offense for his rookie season until he gets a lot more comfortable. And then you can start challenging a little bit more on first down, second down with the passing game.
I mean, a lot of what is going to come down to early success for him is going to be the stuff that happens before the snap, getting the plays in on time, getting to the right reads, the right run looks based on what the defense gives him. And I don't know how much power they're going to give him as far as audibling, but they gave him a lot of power and leeway at Oregon to get them into the right look, the right fit, a lot of options. So I'm expecting it's going to be earned over time, but the potential for a lot of option stuff with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I did want to touch on this a little bit because a lot of people are talking about, Russell Wilson being so drastically different than Bo Nix, and they are in a lot of ways. But there is one thing that stands out to me and it must still be driving Sean Payton nuts because he mentioned it in the press conference. And it's something that I do have questions about with Bo Nix, is the ability to hang in the pocket within structure and get through his reads. Something that a lot of times, and I think it was maybe not a bug of the system, but just a reality of having somebody like Russell Wilson, where if like that first read wasn't there, check down. There's a reason that the Broncos running backs were getting crazy targets last season, because it was half field deep, home runs not there. All right, we're throwing it behind the line of scrimmage. That keeps you out of negatives a lot, but man, does it limit your ability to hunt and create explosives. And Sean Payton, even in the press conference, talked about Bo needs to do a better job of getting through his reads in the pocket. And that was something that drove me nuts watching Sean Payton. Didn't really like it with Bo Nix. Now, again, you have a very high floor when you do that, because you're getting the ball out of your hands and your playmakers, and good things can happen when you do that. But the quarterbacks who are elite, especially the cerebral pocket bound ones, they know how to manipulate those tight spaces, function in chaos, and get through their reads still despite the chaos around them. And that's something that every once in a while, watching Oregon, didn't happen too often, but when disadvantageous situations, felt we saw a little bit of Auburn Bo Nix come where he gets a little frantic and he's not getting through his reads within structure. Still a young player, can improve a lot there, but that's my biggest thought when I see what similarities do you have. That's the one I'm worried about. And obviously, again, I think Sean Payton as well, because he mentioned it in the press conference immediately.
And we got Michael Ronquillo coming in with some stars saying, great show tonight, Nick and Carl, on building the Broncos. Go Broncos. Michael, thank you again for always being here every single night. I saw your families coming in later this week. Hope you have a good time with them, and appreciate everyone joining us here tonight. And I did see the punter. He is from Australia. So I was right. We got 2 Australians. That'll be fun to see how that goes for the Broncos. And maybe down the road, they'll have a game in Australia for the Broncos. I wouldn't mind traveling there to go see a Broncos game.
That'd be a lot of fun. I'd love to get out there. Australia, New Zealand, anything like that. So, Carl, you're with me. Day one starter, Bo Nix. Relatively, I think, unless the wheels fall off the freaking bus this season and you're picking 1 or 2 overall, and let's be real, I think the defense is probably going to be the biggest reason this team struggles this season, not the offense. But if you're sitting in that situation where you're picking 1 or 2 overall, odds are Nix had a lot to do with it. You're in the very least going to have to seriously evaluate the options in front of you. I don't think that's probable. I think that's kind of like talking like, let's say Zach Wilson all of a sudden is a superstar, that kind of level of probability. You're probably talking about somewhere the 20th best quarterback in the NFL next season, the 15th best quarterback in the NFL next season. That's good enough for a year 1 start. Year 2, then you need to take a step up to that, bumping your head or squarely in the top 10, especially in the AFC, and big game hunting in the AFC West with Herbert and Mahomes. But that's my year 1 expectation. Statistical output, the advanced stats, PFF, whatever, EPA per play. That's what I'm looking for.
No, yeah, definitely with you there. Like I said, they're going to do a lot of things to try to protect him, to not have him get put into horrible situations. He's still going to have to go make some plays, obviously, but they'll lean into the run game. Sean Payton with his system, I mean, he really does a great job of scheming wide receivers open, and he just needs a quarterback that can take advantage of that. Kyle Shanahan's that way too. He can scheme guys open just because he's that better of a thinker than the guy across the field from calling the defense. So that'll lead to a lot of decent plays for the Broncos. But you're right. What he can do when that doesn't work, when the Sean Payton play isn't right, can he get to that second read? Can he get to a better advantageous situation? I remember I was watching one play that he did do well. It was one where the first 2 reads ended up covered. And the third read was one where it was a deep crosser. And he ended up having to escape the pocket because the right tackle lost horribly. And then he made this incredible throw to the sideline. Those kind of plays, like he's going to have some of those to really take that leap to that place the Broncos need him to be for a team to be successful this next season. And then they can start really building the weapons around him once they get to that kind of point where, like you said, year 2, round 1, wide receiver, probably not out of the question. I know we've talked some offensive tackle, edge. I mean, those are going to be important positions, but it also wouldn't be surprised to see the Broncos say, hey, we're going to keep Garrett Bowles around for a couple more years. We're going to really target one of these top wide receivers, because there's a couple wide receivers I've already got my eye on for this upcoming season. And we're not going to get into 2025 draft stuff here yet too much, but like I said, that could be a possibility to really help your young quarterback then take that next step. But yeah, I expect decent things. I'm really not as worried, like I said, about the offense as I am the defense. That defense has some major holes. I need to see what can they do without Josie Jewell and Justin Simmons really getting everybody in the right spot. And I hate to bring this game up, but the Miami game is when Justin Simmons and Josie Jewell missed. Now you had a rookie stepping in or two young players, a second-year player and a first-year player stepping in for them. And so that's going to lead to some bad things. But still, like, who's going to be those next people to step up?
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Same with Bo Nix, but like we said, we expect him to be the day one starter. One final thing here, Carl. What would it mean to you if Bo Nix does not win the day one starting spot? How many red flag sirens would be going off for you? Would that change your expectation for him in his career in Denver, not beating out Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham?
It wouldn't be quite the nuclear plant red sirens going off and everybody panic and run, but it would definitely be pretty worrisome because there's just not a whole lot of competition, and he should be NFL ready. Like, if there's a guy 61 starts in college, handpicked by this coach, he's got a leg up already in this competition. Like, Sean Payton wants him to win it. Mm-hmm. So he's got to do a lot of bad things. Like, if it's close, Bo Nix will get the start. He's got to really blow it for the Broncos not to give him the job.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully it works out. Peter Middleton, good to see you, Peter. Says good point, Carl. Always hope you're doing well, Peter, wherever you're at these days. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following Carl on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler MHH. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. As that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Want to say thanks to all our stars on the way out. David Mickelrath, Kenneth Booker a few times as well. David Carmelo, of course. Michael Ronquillo, Phil McLaughlin a few times. Troy Boer, Dennis Woods, Gary Palmer, Lawrence Rivera, and Michael, of course, again, closing us out. You guys are great. Thank you so much. It's always a lot of fun. Again, happy birthday to Carl. Thanks. On the way out. I didn't bust out the violin to play for you. I don't know how the mic would pick that up, but appreciate everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.